The Woman in Room 312. A long American ghost story. In the autumn of 1987, the small town of Blackwood, Maine, sat quietly beside the Atlantic Ocean. The town was known for its fog-covered shores, old fishing boats, and a Victorian hotel called the Hawthorne House. The Hawthorne House had stood for over 100 years. Locals spoke of its beauty. They also spoke of Room 312. Nobody stayed there for long. Some guests complained of whispers in the walls. Others claimed they heard a woman crying in the middle of the night. A few reported seeing a pale figure standing near the window. The hotel owners dismissed these stories as imagination. But everyone in Blackwood knew the legend. A young woman named Eleanor Hawthorne had vanished from Room 312 in 1904. No body was ever found. No explanation was ever discovered. And after more than 80 years, people still claimed her ghost remained inside. Chapter 1. The Journalist. Daniel Carter was a journalist from Boston. At 32 years old, he specialized in investigating strange stories. He did not believe in ghosts. He believed in facts. When his editor suggested a Halloween article about Blackwood's haunted hotel, Daniel laughed. "Perfect," he said. "I'll spend a few nights there and prove it's nonsense." 3 days later, he drove into Blackwood. Fog rolled across the streets like white smoke. The ocean crashed against dark rocks. The town felt frozen in time. Daniel checked into the Hawthorne House. The elderly manager, Mrs. Langley, handed him a key. Room 312. She looked nervous. "Are you sure?" she asked. Daniel smiled. "It's just a room." Mrs. Langley didn't smile back. People say that every time. Chapter 2. The First Night. Room 312 looked ordinary. A wooden bed, a desk, a wardrobe, a large window overlooking the sea. Daniel set up his camera and voice recorder. At midnight, nothing happened. At 1 o'clock, nothing happened. At 2 o'clock, he began writing notes. Then he heard it. A faint sound. A woman humming. The melody drifted through the room. Daniel stood. The sound stopped immediately. He searched the hallway. Empty. He checked neighboring rooms. No guests. When he returned, the recorder on his desk was playing by itself. The speaker crackled. Then a woman's voice whispered, "Help me." The recorder shut off. Daniel stared at it. His hands trembled. For the first time, he felt uneasy. Chapter 3. The Diary. The next morning, Daniel visited the town library. The librarian, an old man named Thomas Reed, listened carefully. Then he disappeared into a storage room. Minutes later, he returned carrying a dusty box. Inside was a diary. The diary belonged to Eleanor Hawthorne. The final entry was dated October 17, 1904. It read, "Someone is watching me. I hear footsteps outside my door every night. Father says I imagine it, but I know someone is there. If anything happens to me, do not trust Charles." Daniel frowned. Who was Charles? Thomas Reed answered immediately. Charles Whitmore, a wealthy businessman, and Eleanor's fiancé. Chapter 4. Shadows in the Hallway. That evening, Daniel returned to room 312. The atmosphere felt different. Colder. At exactly 3:12 a.m., footsteps echoed in the hallway. Slow. Heavy. One step. Then another. Then another. The footsteps stopped outside his door. Silence. Daniel opened the door. The hallway was empty. Then he noticed something. Wet footprints. As if someone had walked from the ocean. The footprints stretched down the corridor. Daniel followed them. They ended at a wall. Nothing else. No doorway. No explanation. Suddenly, a woman's voice whispered beside his ear. "Find me." Daniel spun around. Nobody was there. Chapter 5. The Hidden Room. The next day, Daniel studied old blueprints of the hotel. One detail caught his attention. The hallway outside room 312 should have been wider. There appeared to be a used space behind the wall where the footprints ended. That night, he returned with tools. At midnight, he removed a loose wooden panel. Behind it was a hidden door. His heart pounded. The door creaked open. Dust filled the air. Inside was a tiny forgotten room. A chair, a candle holder, and human bones. Daniel froze. The skeleton wore fragments of an old dress. A silver necklace hung around its neck. The initials read, Yates, Eleanor Hawthorne. After 83 years, she had finally been found. Chapter 6. The Truth. Police examined the remains. Evidence suggested Eleanor had been murdered. News spread rapidly through Blackwood. Daniel continued investigating. He searched old newspapers, court records, personal letters. Finally, he discovered the truth. Charles Whitmore had enormous gambling debts. Eleanor planned to cancel their engagement. If she left him, he would lose access to her family's fortune. On the night of October 17, 1904, Charles confronted her in room 312. An argument followed. Eleanor threatened to expose him. Charles panicked. He killed her. Then he hid her body inside the secret room. Nobody ever suspected him. Months later, he left town. Years later, he died wealthy and respected. His crime remained hidden. Until now. Chapter 7. The Storm. That night, a violent storm struck Blackwood. Rain hammered the windows. Thunder shook the hotel. Daniel sat alone in room 312. The air suddenly turned freezing cold. His breath became visible. The lights flickered. The door slowly opened. A pale woman stood in the doorway. Her white dress drifted like smoke. Dark hair hung over her shoulders. Her eyes were filled with sadness. Daniel knew immediately. Eleanor. The ghost stared at him. Not with anger, not with hatred, but with sorrow. Then she pointed toward the window. Lightning illuminated the room. For a brief moment, Daniel saw another figure standing beside her. A tall man, his face twisted with terror. Charles Whitmore. The ghost vanished. The room became silent. Chapter 8. The final message. Near dawn, Daniel fell asleep. He dreamed of the ocean. A woman stood on the shoreline. Eleanor. She smiled gently. Thank you, she said. The truth is finally known. The fog around her began to glow. Behind her appeared dozens of faint figures. Lost souls. Forgotten people. Then Eleanor walked into the light and disappeared forever. Daniel woke with tears in his eyes. The room felt warm, peaceful, empty. The haunting was over. Epilogue. The discovery of Eleanor Hawthorne's remains made national news. The Hawthorne House renovated room 312. The hidden chamber became part of the hotel's history exhibit. Visitors came from across America to hear the story. Yet something strange happened afterward. Reports of whispers stopped. The crying ceased. No more shadows appeared in the hallway. No more footprints emerged from nowhere. Room 312 became just another hotel room. Years later, Daniel returned to Blackwood. The ocean still crashed against the rocks. The fog still rolled through town. But the hotel felt different. Lighter. As he prepared to leave, Mrs. Langley handed him a photograph found during renovations. It showed Eleanor standing outside the hotel in 1904. On the back was a handwritten note. The dead do not always seek revenge. Sometimes they only seek the truth. Daniel looked toward the old building one last time. A woman stood in the third-floor window, smiling. Then the fog drifted past, and she was gone. The end. Ghost Crescent Moon.